Hi, well, come on in. Welcome. All right, I'd like to say welcome to all of you. I know a lot of you, this might be either your first time teaching or pretty close to it. Some might have a year under your belt, or maybe you had a part time experience somewhere, long term subbing. Just you've had a little bit of experience, and I thank you for coming here. So it's good to have you here. My name is Ryan Lewis. I just want to let you know that teaching is a great profession. I really enjoy it, and there have been some things I've learned over the years from both my experience and other people around me that I think you should know just to help you out in getting the stage set so that you'll have a successful career and not face any type of like burnout or frustration that you're like, I'm ready to quit. You might feel like that one day, but not on any, couple days in a row. I want you to have some things, some little nuggets that you'll have to take away from this today in setting the stage so you have a lot of success. Okay, so first thing I'd like to do is talk to you about some of the experiences I've had with kids outside of the classroom. For instance, years ago I taught, and I remember walking into a Target store, and this kid looked at me, looked up, his little blonde hair and his glasses, he looked up and he said, I didn't know you shopped here. I just thought, well, yeah, I need to buy stuff here too, just like you and your mom do. So it was a great time too to also talk with mom and let her know how her son was doing in class. And he was doing pretty well, so that was kind of a nice little connection there to build. I remember stopping at a restaurant. Howdy.
Came across science stuff, might be dated, but kind of helpful too.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
I thought of you, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
That's just another example of, giving a speech to you guys. And I know it's a little funny, but interruptions happen all the time and just got to roll with it. And that was something that was good. It wasn't anything really bad, so not a problem. So thanks for your patience. Usually the kids don't act like you guys do. Usually they're talking and now something else distracts them. So anyway, I was saying I was at a restaurant and I remember ordering and I heard my name, hey, Mr. Lewis, yelled across the restaurant. It's like, hey, how you doing? It's Caleb. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I saw a student I had many years ago. It was probably 20 years earlier. I know I don't really look that old, but I am. So anyway, he had mentioned that what was going on in his life, his job, he was planning to get married, and just what was going on. I asked him about his parents and his brother. So it was just kind of neat catching up. And that's a neat experience to have, is when you have a kid and years later they remember you and they like want to talk to you. It's kind of neat. So there's some other things I want to talk about with you guys today that is kind of setting the stage to the classroom. Like before you even get to the classroom, before you even say hello to the first kid, there's some things I think you should think about ahead of time so that you can concentrate on the kids, so you can concentrate on your lessons, so you'll be successful in the classroom. You'll have time to grade papers and that kind of stuff. Well, not really, but you get it. You will. It's kind of a joke. For instance, as I look back upon my education, and I know it's true for most of you here in talking with you, is that you didn't really have a lot of classes on finances, on accounting, like keeping a book. Unless you're coming from another career, you really don't have that exposure. And so it can be kind of hard keeping track of your money. You just think, oh, I'll get a career that'll pay me enough money and I can pay all my bills. I just kind of have to watch it. And I would disagree with that, because I would say that as a new teacher, the amount of pay that you make versus what you have to pay back in loans, maybe you're going to need a decent car, definitely need a place to live, and all the bills that come along with being an adult. Adulting's a little tough. And if you can't keep track of your finances, you're going to be hurt. So one of the things I recommend is getting some type of ledger, like a 3-column book where you're keeping track of everything that you're spending your money on. You want to figure out how much are you spending on groceries on a regular basis. Are you eating out too often? You can keep track of your electric bill. Of course, you can also do that online most times now with a lot of your bills, like how much you've been paying, how much was it a year ago, kind of thing. Once you've been here long enough, you can keep track of it. Hello?
Are you keeping me out?
No,
Oh, okay.
just doing a recording here.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
And I interrupted.
that's fine.
Sorry. I just forgot the attendance sheets and then I'll
Oh,
leave.
sure, not a problem. Another thing, I'm just going to keep rolling. I'll let you do what you need to do. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was your physical health. A lot of times as a teacher, you neglect your physical health, right, Mrs. Cole?
True.
And you put your health to the side and you're not eating as healthy as you should. Maybe you're hitting a drive-through restaurant and you're getting something that has things in it that aren't as healthy for you. So maybe after a while you start gaining weight or feeling sluggish, you don't have the energy as compared to maybe making an omelet in the morning or with some toast with that and drinking water instead of a lot of caffeine. So I think it's really important to maintain your physical health as well as your personal finances. And then the third category I'm going to talk about is your emotional health. Being on sharp, on focus in your life outside of the classroom will then help you to stay on focus and in good health in the classroom. If I'm frustrated with my family at home, I'm probably going to bring that frustration to the classroom. And it might be played out a little bit differently, where a kid might normally have a teacher with some patience, and now that kid has a teacher with no patience, and the teacher lashes out. And they're like, whoa, I don't like that teacher. So then they don't like the class, so then they don't perform well in the class. So that can be a result of you not being emotionally healthy from outside of the classroom, and that plays out here. There are other circumstances too. Maybe you're part of a union and there's some issue going on and you're trying to get that resolved, and it's just replaying in your mind. You're thinking about it. Well, the kids probably don't have your best attention, and that's what they need from you. So it's important to stay emotionally healthy as well. And that's something that most teachers are known for, is having 3 months off in the summer, which is now down to about 2 months, and it usually gets filled with another job to help pay the bills, and you're also taking more classes, so you can go up on a pay scale, or more classes to get a reading endorsement or certificate. So it just becomes a little bit cumbersome trying to navigate through the summer and also have some mental time where you're kind of down and out, just chilling, so that you can regroup and refocus. Professional growth is very important. Most districts, you want to go up on the pay scale. In order to do that, you want to grow professionally, and outside of the pay, you want to grow professionally anyway. You want to learn more. You want to become a better teacher over the years. You want to become that master teacher that does really well with the kids and just is known as a good professional that others can look up to and model after. I think one of the things that's important for you guys as you're new is to find some type of mentor teacher. Now, our district will pair you up with someone that you can go to and talk about, where they're going to basically not judge you and just help you through the process of the first couple of years. Now, Ohio here had a good program years ago where you would have a mentor teacher for 4 years. It could either be the same one, or you could have a different one each year, or the same one for 2 years. And each year, there were hoops that you had to jump through to then complete that year, which was kind of nice in the sense that it doubled with what you had to do in the classroom anyway. So why not? But I think having a mentor is a very good idea. And if your district doesn't have one, find one. Ask around if there is a mentor program. If you're in a union, ask about that. You might have to be in one, which is good. They obviously are doing it for a reason. Or and this is something you can do, or in addition, is find a buddy teacher. Find someone in your grade level. If you're a small school district, usually the person next to you or across the hall. If you're in a larger district, maybe someone that's in like the same position in another building. What are you doing? How's it going? So that you have someone you can rely on, the buddy system kind of. A lot of times you want to take classes. I know I'm kind of rushing through here, but I know you guys have a lot to do. You want to take classes. And the way it's structured in my district is you have your bachelor's, then you have bachelor's plus 15, then master's plus 15, master's plus 30, then it jumps up to master's plus 60, or PhD. I know not all school districts are like that. Some jump up every 8 hours, maybe every 10 hours. So just wherever you are, be aware as to what it is. You can take classes that are maybe really cheap, and you're going that route just to get more hours, or try to take classes or work at a school where you're also earning another certificate as well. Maybe you want to go into special ed or have that as a backup, or maybe you want to go into counseling, or to be a school superintendent or principal, or just some other position. So maybe use those hours to grow professionally and use it to also earn another certificate or degree. Why not? And then you have that in your back pocket to help you out. The way it is right now for us here in Ohio is every 5 years you need 6 credit hours. You could also do the hours, the CEUs, the units where you have to then transfer over. I like to recommend taking classes where you're getting like a 3 credit class over the summer or during the semester. And I think that's the best way. There are a lot of colleges out there that offer really good programs for you. And I can go over some of those options with you. I have a couple that I highly recommend that I've taken classes through, and I'll share those with you. Sometimes you can be part of a school district or a union where they offer classes for you, and you can earn your credits through the union and what they have to offer. So that's kind of a good recommendation for you to consider as well. Why not? Because then it might be a reduced cost, or if a group of you go in on it together, it can bring down the cost. It might knock $60 off or $100 off, depending on how many are in the group. If it's 4 versus 10, it might reduce it even more. Now the next part, the fun part, evaluations. Evaluations can be done by, a lot of times, the principal. They'll do a walkthrough, or it could be planned. Maybe a curriculum director, maybe just another person that's been appointed. They could be coming by to walk through and look at a certain kid, or just the kids in general. They could be looking at you. Maybe they're looking at how you use technology in the classroom. So a long time ago, before I was in education, I was in a job where I learned that don't just stop when they come in. I recommend you keep rolling as though they're not there. I had a job years ago, and the president of the company walked through. Everyone felt the obligation to stop and say hi. Well, that person wanted to see the work that was going on in their building, and they didn't get to see it very often because people would stop and say hi. They wanted to see what was going on, or they'd bring someone to tour the building. So what I did and a couple others did was like, let's keep working. Let's show them we're hard workers and what we're doing. And later on, they came back and said something. They came back to us that they really appreciated it. So that was a lesson I learned outside of teaching, is just keep going with it. Now, sometimes they're going to try to get your attention, and that's fine. They want to say something, and it's important. So you will need to somehow make eye contact and then communicate that message. And they're pretty good about it. And maybe they'll ask, am I interrupting, or just real quick, or hand you a sticky note kind of thing. So that's just something to consider for you new teachers. Don't feel the pressure of like, I got to stop. Maybe keep going. They want to see it. Or you can turn and say hi, and they can respond, and you have that interaction. Sometimes you'll have a planned visit where there's actually a date that you have planned for them to come and view your classroom and give you a formal observation. That's where you're making your lesson plans and you're talking about what you're going to do, your goals, what data are you using, what pre-test did you use to confirm that you're doing this, to get what results are you looking for, and then maybe they'll have a conference, and meanwhile you've had a post-test, see the change. So that's more of a specific formal observation over a goal or standard that you have. So those can get kind of hairy preparing for those, and the nervousness as to, hey, what's the outcome? I hope I did okay. I hope I'm not going to lose my job, when really they want to help you become better. You've worked really hard to get to this point. You've made it. You've been successful to get to this chair where you're in right now, which means you're doing something right. So keep going. You'll get it. I did have a negative experience one time with an evaluator, and I can tell you a little bit about it, and that is the evaluators get evaluated. If they have a lot of high marks and it's consistent, that's going to show. If you have someone that's getting low marks all the time, that's going to show, and the people above them are going to ask or try to find out what's going on. Maybe it's like, hey, you're giving away too many positives, or the other person might be like, there might be a lot of complaints where it's like, okay, no one's going to request them anymore, or they're going to start running out of people to evaluate. So depending on how it is worded with your union and your contract, or with whatever school you're with, the evaluators do get evaluated. And I had a negative experience with that one time, and I'll share that with you personally sometime. But if they're giving positives and high marks all the time, and then all of a sudden it changes, and you're the one that has changed on, it can make you feel bad when it's really not you. It's they need to change how they evaluate. So that can lead to some frustration. One of the things that might happen is, over time, you might find yourself, due to family reasons or a spouse, you might end up moving districts. Or, like I said earlier, you're taking more classes, more hours to get another job position, and you get it, so you're in another school district, a neighboring one, or maybe you move states away. It is very common that all of the sick days that you have built up can get transferred to the new school district, but you have to request it. So the new school district will request it from the old one, and you just have to talk with them the process to which that happens. So if you have 40 days built up and you move to a new school district, say North Carolina, talk to the school district in North Carolina, figure out the proper process and paperwork to get your days switched over. It's very common for school districts to accept the number of days you have off. Now that's different compared to the years of experience. The years of experience, typically most places accept up to 2 years. They don't have to accept beyond that. A lot of times in the business world, you might see an advertisement for 15 plus years experience wanted. In a school, that's not the case. It's the opposite. If you have 15 years, they might give you 2. Depending on the school district, they could give you a little bit more. So you'll just have to keep track of that when you go in and talk with them. Figure out how many years they're giving you, because that puts you on the pay scale differently. And that could make a difference of $1,000 or $2,000 per school year. And you need that. You need to know. The other thing that goes along with that, and I found out the hard way, is this. Let's say, for instance, you graduate from school and you have 2 different loans and you've been offered to consolidate your loans. Don't do it. And I'll tell you why in a second. Or maybe you get married and you have a spouse that has a loan and you consolidate. Don't do it. At least not yet. Hear me out. When you go to work at a school district that is economically disadvantaged and they meet a certain criteria of having so many students in poverty or economically disadvantaged, you might qualify for a grant to get $5,000 off of your loans. So it's like $5,000 is wiped off if you work there X number of years. It could be 5 years, it could be 6 years, whatever the ruling is. Once you consolidate your loan, you are no longer eligible for that, and you don't qualify at all just because you consolidated. It could be your two loans that you consolidated, and so you're just making one payment. Maybe you're making a better interest rate by consolidating. It doesn't matter. Once you change that, you are no longer eligible. So that's something for you to consider. If you haven't consolidated yet, hold off. If you're working in this district, you can qualify for $5,000. Now, this district and some others, if you work in a certain field, like say for instance math, middle school, high school math, you could get up to $15,000 erased as compared to just $5,000 for everyone else. So that's something to consider as well. And I had a friend in another state go to a job in another state, that is, took a job, and they gave him more years of experience because he was in math, and they wanted more people in math. So it depends on your field, it depends on the state. So those are some things just to look out for and consider. And I don't want you going down there not knowing that. At least you know kind of what to look out for, maybe some questions to ask as well. One of the things that is kind of fun is at lunchtime seeing who's going to show up today. Here's what I mean. There are some days and some years, especially in the beginning of the year, where you have these companies come in, they're allowed to come in, and they offer a 403B program. Because we don't put in a Social Security, this is kind of a replacement for that, and it's a supplemental income for your retirement to help you pay for the bills, especially for insurance until you reach a certain age. So this program usually requires for someone to come in, fill out the paperwork, and then you invest money with them so that years later when you go to retire, you have this supplemental income with money coming in each month, or use it as needed. So you need someone to fill out the paperwork, that kind of stuff. And so an insurance company will come in and they'll fill that out for you. And of course they do get some type of payment for that as well. We have a list in our district, I think, of about 30 to 40 different companies that come in and represent. Sometimes they'll come in one at a time, maybe two at a time. I don't think they're allowed to bring in any treats or cookies and food anymore like they once were years ago, but they can offer you that program. And if that's something that you're interested in, I have a list for you. I can show you that list. And I know it's one page and on to the second, but I can't remember the spacing, if it's like 12 font, 14 font, but there are, roughly 30 names on there to choose from. Okay. One of the things I was trying to find now that would help you guys out, and me too, is right now I write down all of my expenses in a ledger. And I saw an app that could do that for you, but you have to pay a fee every month for that app. And I was wondering if there's one that I could use that doesn't cost me anything or very minimal. Instead of like $10 to $15 a month, like the one I found, is there one that's either free or maybe even $1 or $2 a month to keep track of my expenses? Because one of the things I've done is, as I'm building up more lessons that I do, especially the science lessons, there are more supplies I like to get, and I like to buy them right down the road where they're really cheap. I know how many kids I need, how many kits I need for the kids, whereas if I buy it now through like the teacher catalogs, it's not always what I need, like say baking soda. It's very expensive, it costs money to ship it. I drive right by stores every day that have it, and I can get it, I know where I can get it for less than $1 a box. I need vinegar, I need some other things as well, straws, Play-Doh, and those expenses add up. And each year I spend quite a bit of money buying stuff for the classroom, and I think it's good for you to keep track of that, so you're watching that as well. usually when it comes to finances, if you keep track of it, then you're more aware as to, should I be buying that or not? How much do I use? Do I still have enough from last year to use again? Do I just need to buy a partial box of something? So that's just something to consider as well. I don't know if there's an app for that or not. If you find one, please let me know, because I need to use that as well. And again, this is all in those categories like I talked about, the financial health, emotional health, physical health. We haven't even gotten into the classroom yet to say hello to the first kid that's come on day one, which is not too many days away when you think about it. Summer flies really fast. Okay, and now for health. I would like to take a little break here, but it looks like you guys are doing fine. You fine? Thumbs up? Okay. Restroom break. If you need to, just go. Most of you have water bottles. That's good. It's good for the kids to have them too, so that they stay hydrated. That physical health is what I want to talk about next, and that deals with it. I think it's a lot of times important for you guys to figure out how much time you need in the morning to get ready for the day so that you're properly prepared. And here's what I mean. How much time do I need to get up, prepare, like shave, shower, that kind of stuff, and also get a meal ready, a breakfast? If you say you don't have time, then obviously you need to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. You need so many hours of sleep per night. So what time do you need to wake up to then get to work on time? I like to make an omelet every day, have some type of protein, a lot of protein in the morning. That way I feel full. I also can last until lunchtime. My lunch is not till later. And sometimes it's hard to wait that long. Maybe you have a healthy snack somehow in there. I like to chop up those long carrots, those fresh carrots. Usually get 3 or 5 pound bags. So I'm chopping those up. I prefer the long ones because they taste better. They're easier to chew and swallow as compared to little baby ones. They don't have much taste. They're kind of bland. And I find that even though it might seem more convenient, I'm not eating them as often. So it's actually doing me more harm in a sense. Whereas I'm benefiting more from getting the regular big bag of carrots, cutting them, trimming them, cleaning them, that kind of stuff. Maybe you want to have a little peanut butter cup nearby to dip or whatever, give yourself some protein. I see that they have those little peanut butter cups now, or just a big jar, whatever. You have to watch the food that you have in the room. You don't want it to spoil, attract insects, rodents, that kind of stuff. So really be cautious of that. Make sure you're turning it over. I know sometimes it's nice to have some mixed fruit, like dried fruit, granola, something like that. And it's nice to have that on hand for when you are hungry and you have that craving, just need a little boost. As compared to caffeine and sugar products, maybe you're having some water. Kind of keep an eye on how much water you're drinking each day. I know it's hard if you're like, I don't have a break for a long time, I can't use the restroom. So I have a buddy system where the teacher across the hall, we have like a little sign that we use, and it's like, oh, okay, go ahead. And then we stand out in the hall, watch each other's class, go back and forth. And I try to do it at a time too where my students' heads are looking down, they're busy, they're working, or they're interacting, so I can go rather than like in the middle of something like, where'd my teacher go? So a buddy system with the teacher next door across the hall is a great way that works really well. And usually you figure out a good time to go and use the restroom. You need to also find a good time to stay physically active. I know that most people when they're younger were involved in some type of sport where they had a team involved. And it's like, if you don't have your team, how can you do your sport? It's kind of hard to play football when you don't have your team around you. Who are you going to throw to? As compared to some type of activity where it could be like you're walking, maybe there are walking trails nearby, riding your bike. Maybe you invest a little bit of money in yourself and that you buy a hitch for your vehicle and a bike rack, and you can take your bike places. So you're starting and stopping at different points to keep you interested in what you're doing. So try to find some type of physical activity that you like to do. Maybe it's dancing, or some type of movement in your house. I know in my house I don't have a lot of room, the ceilings aren't that tall, so it's hard for me to do something in my house. I prefer going outside anyway. So you decide what you need to do that fits you best. Maybe it's join a health club that's nearby. Maybe it's only 3 miles away. Can you ride your bike there? Or are you going to ride your car there and then work out? It's nice if you live in an area where the weather is horrible, so that's an option for you. Also consider this: if you are living in a building or apartment place where the electricity goes out a lot, or an area where the water isn't that great, having a backup spot to go and take a shower at the gym is a great idea. I mean, for just a few dollars a month, you know that you can still get a shower even though your drain gets plugged or water goes bad. So something to consider. One of the other things I'd like you to consider, and this is again before you even step your foot the first day in the classroom, is your neighborhood might have some type of program for you. Because you're a teacher, or even police or firefighters, or your spouse if they're one, they might have some type of first home ownership program for you to be part of, to really bring you into the neighborhood, get you into the house, because they want people like you in the neighborhood to then stay there and live there. You might have to live there for 3 years or even up to 5 years. The house might be foreclosed and in disarray, but if you kind of bring that up to code, you live in it, you make it livable and live there for that length of time, you can either stay there, or then someday maybe you need to move up, get a bigger house because your family's growing, whatever the reason. After that time limit, you can move on, and they'll forgive you for part of the loan. Now what they'll probably do is have you take out 2 loans on the house. One is that you will keep it. That loan you just have to pay off. Maybe let's say you get a 30-year mortgage, so you have that loan for 30 years. The other one could be similar to that, and that's the one that could be erased after an amount of time. Now, I'm not in real estate, so I can't explain that the best way, but just trying to keep it in simple terms, where one gets erased, the other does not, as long as you meet their terms. And if you want a couple stories about that, I have some. I did do that years ago, and there was a leak on the house, so it wasn't approved. And here there was a tarp on the house. This is a long story made short. When really, the maintenance crew that comes and checks on it once a month, they were supposed to put the tarp on the garage. They're separate. The garage and house are separate. Because the tarp was on the wrong building, we had to try to call and get the lawn care company to then switch it over. Well, there was a problem with the lawn care company because they had sold and someone else bought it. So it's just a big fiasco, which took, I want to say, 4 or 5 months to try to straighten out. And basically, I paid a professional to go take the tarp off the house, which was fine until they nailed the tarp down in the 4 corners. So those had to be patched and repaired. Over to the garage, fixed the leak over there, and I had to pay that professional to do it when I didn't even own the house yet. So it's like I'm paying to fix a house that's not mine. I don't live in it, just so that I can become eligible to maybe get a mortgage for it. So that's the shortened version. If you want the long one, I'll take you out to eat and we'll talk about it then. One of the other things that you'll hear in our school, and there's a program dealing with mindfulness. Mindfulness is a term that has a little bit different meaning. If you were to look at the dictionary years ago, this would be like one more meaning to add to it. And it's kind of like yoga, where you're focusing on yourself, you're calming down, and being mindful. Now, when my mom or dad told me be mindful of something, it was like, be careful, look out. And I think it's the idea of looking out for yourself, looking out for your safety, your concern. If you do any work with zones, what kind of zone are you in? Are you in a good positive zone, a green zone? Are you maybe the next one down where you're kind of yellow, kind of like a warning, like you're fine, you're functioning, but your mind's a little off track? Are you in the blue, kind of melancholy? Are you in the red zone where you're enraged? You want to be in a green zone so that you're ready to learn. And the same thing is true for the teachers. The more prepared you are before you step foot in the classroom to be mindful, the better you will be at dealing with the kids when there's a struggle. And dealing with the kids, it's very rare that you have a kid that's like the perfect kid all year long, and there are lots of them. A lot of the kids come in with stuff. Sometimes they're quiet, sometimes they're outspoken. Maybe their behavior is enough to make you pull your hair out. And these kids need you. They need you with your patience. They need you with your creative ideas on how to respond, with your backup plan to your backup plan. And you can't always think clearly if you are not mentally and physically ready for them. And so I just want to communicate to you that it's very important to be mindful. And for some of you that might belong to a church, or you're very spiritual with whatever group that is, use that as a resource, as a reflection. And if you look in the back of my classroom, I do have quite a few sayings over there. There's probably 12 to 15 sayings of things to kind of keep you positive, to keep you going, or just some sayings that are built upon over the years that a lot of the people in our country use, just as a reminder. Maybe you have a saying that you say to yourself in the morning when you're driving on the way here, like, I can do this, I'm a teacher, I'm a professional, I'm bigger than these kids, whatever it is. So come up with some type of saying, write it down so that you can actually look at it. Maybe keep a composition notebook where you have inside the page that saying, so that's the first thing you see. And maybe the second page, other important information like the phone number and address of the place where you work. So if you have a blank, you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is. I can go there and look it up. Or if you're feeling sick, what's the number that I need to call if I'm not feeling well, so I can get a substitute for the day. So having a journal like that, or some spot where you can go to, or if there's another member of your family in your house, they know where to go to help you out if you're in a condition that you can't really make the phone call and talk to someone and wait for the answer. Or press 1 for this, press 2 for that, and meanwhile you're ralphing in the toilet. I think one of the things that then this leads to is knowing the kids. It's nice to know the kids. If you live in the area where you work, you get to see them at the store, at the restaurant. Maybe they walk around your neighborhood, your bike. They find out where you live, and sometimes that can be good. Sometimes it's not good. You're like, I wish I could move. Or they find you anyway when you don't live nearby because you have a relative of theirs that lives nearby. Had that happen, there was this girl across the street, and I came home, I sat on my front porch, and I hear, Mr. Lewis. I'm squinting, looking, I'm like, who in the world is that? I don't teach here. And they're calling me Mr. Lewis. Everyone around my neighborhood here knows me as my first name. I'm like, who is it? I'm like, oh my goodness, that is Mackenzie. And so she's waving like crazy, yelling across the street, and it's a 4-lane traffic, so I'm yelling across the street, and then I see her in school the next week and we catch up. So seeing kids like that in a setting other than school is a great way to build a relationship with them, get to know them. Maybe you want to be part of a club that the school offers, and you get paid for it too, in most cases. Or you want to coach. I highly recommend that. A lot of school districts prefer a teacher to then coach for a couple reasons, but one of the reasons is that you know the kids. So that's not an issue. The kids know the coach or the teacher, and it's like a good fit. So that's something for you to consider as well. All right. I have a few other things here I'd like to recommend, and I know time is getting, so one of the things that I found is this. I was able to get a used laptop off of someone, and I keep that at home. And I can get into my work email, check it in the evening if I want to. I can do searches on there. I might have an idea. I can start typing something, and then maybe the next day at work, then I'm typing some more. And that way I don't have to lug it back and forth. Sometimes you'll see people in the parking lot coming into the building, oh, hold the door for me. Or you're going to hold the door for them because they have a whole bunch of bags and pulling some type of wheeled device behind them. And it's like, are you moving in or moving out? I don't know what it is. And I like to keep one small bag with a few things in it to go back and forth with certain supplies in it. It's almost like a first aid trauma kit or something, just some certain things that's in there that you might need. And one of the things I really liked is having a laptop at home. That way I'm not carrying that back and forth, plus the charger cord, or oh no, I forgot the cord, I can't charge it, or I can't use it very long. So that's an idea. We do have teacher computers here that you can use. Next year we're supposed to get a laptop, so that'll be a nice addition. So you can use that to take back and forth, not just keep at school. I don't like taking a whole lot of papers home, just because you're lugging it home, and you gotta really watch. Yes, you're gonna spend time at home doing work, but try to keep it limited to a certain amount of time, like say the first 2 hours. Or if you have kids, you deal with getting supper ready, playing outside, giving them a bath, they got to eat, put them down to bed, and then maybe you have an hour to work on it. I don't recommend on doing it and then going right to bed, because your mind needs to kind of slow down a little bit. If you look at the studies, when you're on screen time right before you go to bed, it takes your mind quite a while to kind of slow down from that screen time. It gets your mind activated. So you want to just kind of relax. So reading a book is fine because you're using your imagination, and that's fine. Or reading an article, or doing something totally different, maybe a hobby that you have. So make sure that you're spending time taking care of yourself. And I think that's key right there, because there are so many things you could be doing that there's just not enough time in the day or the year to get through everything you want to and have to. So you have to really prioritize things so that you can be the best for your students. And college has taught you a lot about getting a lesson prepared and how to present, how to have a beginning, a middle, end, what kind of input are you going to use, what kind of technology you're going to use, how you're going to teach technology, how they're going to use it, what's safe, what's not safe. There's all kinds of things you can teach in a classroom. But it's really hard for you to really master taking care of yourself in all of those categories, being well balanced. And if you mentor with someone that has a lot of good experience, you will get a lot of good nuggets from them. You can look at what they do and either copy it, or maybe it gives you an idea of how to take care of yourself. So whether it be eating right, exercising, you might think to yourself, it's been a rough day, I'm just going to drive through and get something. Too tired. I'm like, that's all the more reason to go home and cook something healthy. And I recommend eating something healthy and then going out and shopping. So it involves planning ahead. And the more you plan ahead for some of these things that involve taking care of yourself, the better off you'll be for taking care of the kids and their needs. Whether it be their academics or listening to a story they have to tell you. Maybe they had something happen over the weekend. Maybe they had a sister that's way older, lives on their own, far away, and they came to visit throughout the weekend, and they were so excited, they stayed up late and didn't get much sleep because they're just a little kid. But the older siblings stayed up late because there's family there. They're excited. It was a trip. The parents are excited. So sometimes these kids come to us and you don't know what happened in the last 24 hours. So you have to kind of know the kid, kind of take some patience with the kid and figure out what happened before you rush out or lash out. And you don't want to do some damage to the kid, because then they won't perform for you. If they don't like you, they probably won't perform. They won't do as well. They're not going to learn anything. And they're definitely not going to see you someday at Chipotle and go, hi, how are you doing? They will keep their head down, quiet, and because they didn't have a good experience. maybe the kid next to them didn't interpret it that way, but they did. So my encouragement to you is to take care of yourself, be mindful, be healthy, be emotionally aware what's going on with you so that you can take care of the kids. And I recommend once you figure out your school year ends, the next week might be a good time to go and get that yearly health exam, get your teeth worked on, or whatever you need to do, new eyeglasses. Usually later on in June is a good time to get all that done when you're in the mode of getting goals accomplished, and then maybe July you're taking off. I know some years you might be coaching a sport or starting that early in August. Maybe there's a family vacation involved, or you're going to move to a different house. So usually the sooner you do that, take care of yourself, that gives you more flexibility and more time to adapt to what else needs to be done. Or put that final paint on the garage or the shed, or do whatever landscaping project you wanted to do. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you. Next time I'd like to talk a little bit more about some things to do inside the classroom. So I hope you have a good day and a good experience here.